Ladies and gentlemen, my father.
I thought you were going to say something nice about it.
How much nicer could that be?
Leave it to your imagination.
Well, good evening. It is evening.
Good evening. Yes, good evening.
I'm not sure what I'm going to do, so you shouldn't be too sure of it either. Because it's going to float. But first, I want to take my jacket off. It's a little warm. And I wanted to tell you that at one time, I produced a male burlesque show. So I'm going to strip.
I should have worn my mistress hat.
Woo!
I've never seen this show. I just want everyone to know. I have no idea what's going to happen.
When I produced that show, I did it in a place called Wild Bill's Saloon. And it was in Bakersfield, up there where the country folks are from. Howdy, ma'am. Did you have to go?
I was wondering, how old were you when you did that?
That's not a fair question.
Oh.
But I'll answer it. How old was I?
At your age.
About 53. Okay?
That's
Oh, I want to tell you, folks, be careful of these cords if you have to get up and go. And if you have to get up and go, I understand. It's all right. So, at any rate, I went down to Hollywood to hire the dancers and brought them up. And most of them were gay, and all they wanted to do was get their clothes off and get the girls to stick the money in their G-string. So I didn't like that. I wanted to see more stuff go on. So finally I said, you guys are going to, tonight you're going to watch, and I'm going to do a strip for you, and you're going to see how it's done. So first I asked the audience if they would like me, mind if I did it. I wore 3 G-strings like this. And so I did a strip. I did that strip of music, whatever that is, I don't remember. And it was fun. But I didn't let the girls stick the money in. That wasn't part. I was the MC. But I stripped. Anyway, I thought I'd tell you that because I did that dumb thing over there. Does anybody play the ukulele? You play the ukulele?
Yeah.
Would you come up here?
I used to, but I don't now.
Oh, you don't know? I brought the ukulele. I thought someone would play it.
I might try. I might be able to.
She's tired.
That's
Try it.
maybe.
What?
I might be able to.
You might be able to?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'll bring it over here and you might try.
I actually, my teacher, we have a student teacher in our class, and she plays the ukulele, and so I'm going to see if maybe I can remember a few chords that she knows.
Okay, all I need is 1 chord.
Let's see if I can remember.
Let's hear it. Let's hear the chord. Oh, you could sit there and you'll be more comfortable and play it. Oh, you want to get the kid. You can't follow a kid out. You know? All right, let's go. 1, 2, 3. Start strumming.
It's because I don't remember.
Oh, well, then you sit down and try. And once you get it, you play a couple of chords and I'll hear you and then I'll bring you up. All right? Got it?
Yes, I got it.
Okay. Like I said, I talk a lot. And that's what I'm going to do tonight. But I also sing. And when I sing, nobody gets up. Because if they do, I'll keep on singing. And you may want me to quit. Did I hear a chord?
I think I've got it.
Let me hear.
A Oh God, that's serious.
Strum it loud.
I'm just gonna do it without the strings.
Okay, well, let me finish what I'm gonna do, because I thought maybe you could accompany me. I brought a harmonica, but it's pretty hard to play a harmonica and sing at the same time. So I decided not to do that. I was in a few stage productions in my time, and I was in a couple of musicals. And one of the ones that I really enjoyed was called Cabaret. And I played the old Jewish fruit peddler, Herr Schultz. Herr Schultz had 3 songs. One was a duet with Fräulein Schneider, and then he had 2 other solos. I propose to Fräulein Schneider, and I say, what'd you say? And I say, so what are we talking? If you consider marriage, but take your time. And she did. She walked off stage and left me standing there. So I'm standing there thinking, there was a band behind me, and they start, and I go, how the world could change. It could change like that, due to one little word, married. See a palace rise on a 2-room flat, due to one little word, married. And the old despair that was often there suddenly ceases to be. For you wake one day, look around and say, somebody wonderful married me. So I stand there for a minute, and then I hear, Herr Schultz. I said, yes. She says, I've considered. I said, oh, so soon? She says, yes. She says, if you'll have me, I'm yours. I said, if you have me, oh boy, everybody, So that was the thing. The next scene, well, there's another scene that happens, and then the following scene after that is the engagement party. Well, I had time to change and everything, get dressed for the engagement party, and I'd come backstage and stand there while the last scene finished and go on. For some reason, one night, I finished early, getting dressed, and I went on stage, and I'm standing there, and I realized, oh, I'm really early. And I noticed that there was a door open and the stairs going down. There was a little dressing room there, and there was a chair. So I walked down and sat in a chair. Sally Bowles, who was a very pretty lead lady, came into the room. And I'm sitting there. She said, hi, Sam. And took off all of her clothes, every stitch. And I'm sitting there like this. I don't know what to do. So what I did was I got up after we talked for a little bit, and I went up and waited for my scene to start. And when it did, I'm celebrating, and I've had a little bit to drink. And I sing a song called Mieskite. I don't know if you've ever heard it, but it's a song that talks about an ugly person. And so that's my song. But how I lead into it is I see this Nazi soldier dancing with this girl like this. And I didn't think that was nice, and I walk up and I say, stop everything. We're going to do something different. I'll sing a song. Well, the person who was dancing like that, the Nazi soldier, just happened to be my son. And so, a couple of things happened. One of them was I had my set places where I started from, but I could roam around the stage while I'm singing. It's a long song. It goes, Miss Kite, once upon a time there was a Miss Kite, looking in the mirror he could say with an awful shock, I got a face that would stop the clock. But then it's more Miss Kite, and then there's more verse, and there's a Miss Kite, and there's more verse, and this kept going, you know, it's a long song. Well, I walked over by my son, the Nazi soldier, and I tweaked his cheek, and then turned around and walked back. He reacted like a good Nazi soldier. You know, he was ready to kill me. My daughter, that one back there, Candace, was at this performance. She wouldn't talk to him for a week.
I was 7 years old.
Well, would you like to comment on that, darling?
I was 7 years old.
Okay. So, but what happened this particular night, I'm in the Miss Kite, and Sally Bowles came on. She may have been on stage, I don't know, but she walked over and sat in her boyfriend's lap, who was sitting center stage. And when she did, she turned towards me, looked at me, and crossed her legs. And I'm going, Miss Kite, lots of Miss Kite. She wiped my mind. So I said, I think I need another drink. And I turned and I walked over to Fraulein Schneider. The band is still vamping behind me. And I say, Fraulein Schneider, I need a drink. She said, no, you don't. And I said, yes, I do. And so she gave me a drink, and that gave me time to collect and get back into the song. So that's just some of my silly stories. There's another song that I did, and this one was like, I did a music hall medicine show, produced it with some other people, and so I sang this song in it. There was a guy off stage with a long pole and hook, and so during my performance of this song, he's trying to hook me, get me off stage, because he never does. So it goes like this. Listen to me while I tell you of the Spaniard who blighted my life. Listen to me while I tell you how he stole my future wife. It was at a bullfight that I met him while viewing his daring display. And while I went out for some nuts and a program, the dirty dog stole her away. Oh no, oh yes, oh no, oh yes, but I swear I will have my revenge. When I catch Alfonso Spagoni, the toreador, with the mighty swipe I will dislocate his bloody jaw. I'll get that bullfighter, I will. When the bounder I catch, the blighter I kill. He shall die, he shall die. He shall die, he shall die, he shall die. I'll put a bunion on his Spanish onion when I catch him bending tonight. Ole! So, that was One of the other ones I did. I have one more. Well, I have a bunch, but if you can deal with one more. It's a song I wrote. It's called Texas is Where I Want to Be. And the way it happened was, I was with a friend who's a musician, and he said, Sam, what do you think is going to be the next hot music out? And now this was in 1975. I was 40 then.
You're 45.
What's a 45?
45.
So what's a year or two?
I was born the following year.
Oh, boy. Anyway, so he played the song for me, and I liked it, but he didn't have lyrics. So I said, well, let me write the lyrics. He said, fine. So I wrote the lyrics to his music, and then I wrote, I think the music's laying around here somewhere. Then I wrote a chorus, and then he wrote the music to the chorus, so we did it both ways. And then we produced a record. And I got a guy from Texas to record it. Got some real good musicians, did this in Hollywood, and it came out on AAO Records. So I don't have the background music and all the country western sounds that they had, but I do have a hat. So I'm going to sing that song for y'all now. Did I hear a chord? Give me a chord, anyway. That was a good one. Have you ever thought of where you're going? Ever thought of where you want to be? Well, I don't have to think about that question, 'cause Texas is the only place for me. Well, I traveled from Laredo to El Paso, rode up to old San Antone, Houston, Fort Worth, Abilene, or Dallas. Any place in this old land I call my own. Texas, oh Texas, I love you. You're the only place I can be free. Texas, oh Texas, I love you. You're the only place in this whole state for me. Well, I should have said world there. But I wrote it, so if I want to change it up. I traveled all over this whole country, and I even went a-sailing across the sea. But if you was to ask me where I'd settle, I'd say Ashland is the only place for me. Ashland, oh Ashland, I love you. You're the only place I can be free. Ashland, oh Ashland, I love you. You're the only place in this whole world for me. For me. For me. That's how he ended the record. I didn't like that. That's how he ended the record. Now, I brought you all out here tonight because I wanted to talk to you. But I wanted to listen to you all too. I wanted to listen to your questions so I could talk some more. So, I don't know, did you all get those programs? Well, I'm going to just talk a little bit about each thing you asked me. I mean, I hope you got something you'd like to ask me, somebody or something. And, oh, lady's got her hand up over there.
I'd like to ask a question on the gardening. If you have a problem with earwigs eating all your flowers, and you have dogs, how do you deal with the earwigs? Because all the
Oh.
earwig traps my dogs eat.
I'm sorry, I don't know nothing. So there's no way I can tell you how to do anything. You know, 'cause I don't know how to do it myself unless I've done it. You know, and I don't know that I ever did anything. I've had dogs all my life, but I got a couple of stories. No, but these are horses that have a story.
But you have earwigs.
Yeah. Okay. So anyhow,
Never answered earwigs, huh?
the only thing I can tell you about gardening is that during the Second World War, I grew a victory garden. And I always grew radishes first because they come up first, but I always grew tomatoes. And no matter where I lived, I always made sure that I had tomato plants growing. I love fresh tomatoes. I can't buy them in the stores anymore because they don't make them like they used to. So that's about it for the garden. Sorry. Anybody else have a question? You have oh, I want to tell you that this light sort of blinds me and I don't really see you. So, but just, my name's Sam. Just say, hey, Sam. Okay? Try it.
Hey, Sam.
Yes.
I wanted to ask about the cats on here. I was wondering if you had stories about cats.
If I had what about cats?
Stories about the cats, because
Stories about the cat.
yeah.
You mean where is that? Oh, you mean that from that picture, cats, where I'm a cat?
I guess.
Well, that was a musical called Cats. And that's me sitting there under the moon. I'm Gus, the theater cat. Now, I have a song I sing in that too, a long song, and it makes everybody cry at the end, but I'm not going to do that one because that wouldn't be nice. I don't want to make you cry. You came here to laugh and stuff.
Is that Gus the theater cat?
The theater, Gus the theater cat.
Theater cat, yes.
Yeah, I did it for the Ukiah Civic Light Opera, and it was fun. I enjoyed it. Any other questions?
Hey, Sam?
Yes.
I see up there a picture of Sammy.
What's that?
I see up there another Sam, Sammy Davis Jr.
Oh, yeah.
I met him when I was 15 years old and went backstage when he was doing the show Mr. Wonderful.
Uh-huh.
I said, Sammy, I don't understand how you can do it. You can sing, you can dance, you can act. How can you do all these things? So he's telling me about his father, Will Maston Trio that he sang with and grew up with. And he said, walk with me, I'll tell you about it. I walked down Broadway and wonderful, wonderful, generous man. What was your relationship with him?
Well, my relationship started. Now, I have to warn you, some of my stories side trip, go backwards, and a lot of times they go forward. I worked in Miami years ago with the Vagabonds. They had a club. The Vagabonds were 4 entertainers, and they did comedy, but they sang. They had a couple records, and got to know them real well. I had a boat tied up at the dock down there, and one of them had a speedboat. He used to tie, Al Torriera, he used to tie his boat up there. And so years passed. I bumped into him in New York. Then I flew out here to California. Oh, this is Oregon. Well, I flew out to California, to San Francisco. I can't remember where I am half the time. And while I was there, I saw that the Vagabonds were playing at this called the Mates up in Reno. So I flew up to see them. And it was fun. I hung out with them. I think Louis Prima was there too. I know he's been in a couple of clubs where they were working, and I've met Louis many times. And so while they were getting ready to go on stage or something, I might have been out there gambling. All of a sudden, I just knew what I was doing. I was gambling all my money away. I came out to California for 2 weeks. I stayed 6 months. And I loved every minute of it. I got back into San Francisco and I went down to a store and got a job as a camera, selling cameras. Just because I took some pictures a couple of times. But, oh, see, now I got sidetracked. That's the Vagabonds, and so then, Al, oh, and what happened was Al had a ranch up in Sonoma, and I was invited up to a wedding. And I saw the ranch. I said, Al, this place is beautiful. I said, let me come up and help you pick grapes. And he said, would you do that, Sam? He said, damn, that would be great. He says, you know what, I have another ranch house here. You can stay there. So at that time, I had a wife and didn't have any kids yet. And so I moved on the ranch, made wine with him, and he went on the road, so his brother used to come up. And then finally he retired, but then by then I'd moved down into the valley of Sonoma. And one day he stopped by and he said, Sam, come with me. And we rode like 80 miles to a place south of San Francisco. And there was a man there who owned a Shapery in Chicago. Now the Shapery was a very famous place. And honey, I got a long talk right here, so I don't want you to get too tired with your arm up, okay? And the Shapery was noted also for the type of fellas that went in there. You know, Chicago had Capone and all those people. So this guy bought a theater south of San Francisco and was producing shows. And Al and I got hired as artist relations because, you know, Al knew many entertainers and I knew a lot too by that time. And we also worked behind a little bar at intermission, serving drinks. So from that, they gave me a limo, and I would pick the people up at the airport, take them down to the theater, show them around, see if they needed anything with the sound or the lightings or anything, and then take them up to their hotel, pick them up, take them down to the theater. After the theater, I'd take them to dinner somewhere, and I sat with them and talked with all of them. Well, now I'm getting back to Sammy. Took me a while. When I picked up Sammy and did that, he got a little uncomfortable with me sitting there talking, having dinner with him. And then one night, we stopped at this place, and we got out. They all went in. I stood outside because there was another car pulled up with the dancers in it, and I was waiting for them, you know, to walk in. And they grabbed my arms like this, and they walked in. I didn't know it. One of them was Sammy's girlfriend. So we didn't get along too good up there. Just didn't. When I took him to, he had a private Learjet, and when I took him there to fly back down to LA, all the different guys are coming over that I've worked with and saying, you know, it was fun working with you, and I said, great. And I just couldn't lie to Sammy. And I was just hoping he wouldn't come and say anything to me, because I couldn't say I had a good time with him, because I didn't. Well, I saw him approaching me. He started up the ladder, but then he came back down and he came over. And I shook his hand and said goodbye. And I said, I want to tell you, you are the most talented person I ever met. It's the only thing I could say, and it was truth. So when he was just about to enter the plane, he turned around and he said, hey, Sam, if I find any talent, I'll let you know. So I really hit a spot on him, I guess. The next time I saw him or met him, I was in his father's house having dinner. the fellow that I worked with, Donjo, I was like his assistant, and we went everywhere together. As a matter of fact, a lot of people thought that I was like a mafia bodyguard. I even got a call once from a producer from Paramount Pictures, who I had met with Donjo. Donjo was the name of that guy, by the way. And he asked me if it'd be okay if they produced a film about Motown. Motown's a little bit like that too, you know. So I said, I'll ask Donjo. I did. Donjo said, don't worry about it, no problem. So, but I mean, that was just silly side stuff. Sammy did a musical, Stop the World. I want to get off at the Schubert Theater. I went there, I saw that. I used to pick him up lots of times at the airport. You know, they'd call me and say, hey, Sammy's coming in. Now with this one, I was in Hollywood. I'd run down and pick him up. I've been to his house many times. Nice guy, I really liked him. I went to his service, his funeral service. I sat with Donjo. And what else do I have to say? I guess that's about it. How's that? Anybody else have anything?
What do you mean about Motown being a little
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah.
Well, all right, here I go again. Going back, the Supremes and the Temptations both came to the Circle Star Theater, was where I was working first. And so I became friendly with their bodyguard, who was a black belt karate guy. And Ian asked me if it'd be all right to take my son, Tori, because I always brought Tori to the theater, you know, because he was living down there with me. And to take him down to Hollywood, they were going to work at the Ambassador Hotel. And I don't know whether it was both, I think it was just the Supremes there. No, it was the Temptations too. Yeah, because. So I did, and I told Tori, I said, now Tori, he's your boss, you listen to him. When I got down there, because I was then moving to Hollywood, because we bought a theater out in Woodland Hills, and when I got down to the theater, I saw him coming across the lobby, and so I'm walking like this towards him. He just walked right on past me like I wasn't even there. He just ignored me. I wasn't his father anymore. These people were his father. So I got to know the Supremes much more than I did the Temptations. And I sort of fell in love with Mary Wilson. Somewhere there's a picture of me kissing her at her wedding. I didn't like her husband.
So what do you, I don't get the connection between the Temptation, or the Motown being a little like that, is what you said.
I'm coming up to that.
Okay.
So, at Mary's wedding, they had the reception. They had the wedding in a little chapel, and that's where I kissed her. I was there, and I was with Brown. What is it, Jim Brown?
James Brown.
Huh?
James Brown?
Yeah, and the guy that was in Cabaret, Joel Gray.
Right.
Yeah, and so the three of us rode in a cab to the Caesar's Palace where the reception was. So while I was there, the fellow who was the black belt, he said, come on, Sam, I'm going to introduce you to Mother Gordy. Ma Gordy. You know, Gordy was the name of the people that were running. Well, I went up, and it was just like a scene you would see from The Godfather. Guys standing outside, big guys like this. We opened the door and went in. There's guys standing behind her on the couch, and people around, and took me up, and I stood in front of her like this, and I was introduced. I said, how do you do? They were connected. That's how, I don't know how to explain it. The business is pretty much run by a certain amount of people, whether we want to believe it or not.
So that was the Detroit Mafia?
Huh?
The Detroit Mafia?
Well, I don't really, I tried not to know too much about all that stuff,
Uh-huh.
but it might have been. I mean,
Well, the Gordys were from
Chicago.
Detroit, right?
Yeah, but they're all connected. I grew up in a town like that, and this was outside of Pittsburgh. And I played football with their sons, you know, and I got to know them, and I used to go in their club. As a matter of fact, I booked my ex-wife, I booked her in there. She sang, she was a singer, still is. And, but I never joined them. I never wanted to.
Oh.
Oh, yes,
I'll let
yes,
her
little
go
lady.
first, sorry.
Do you have any dog songs about dogs?
Any dog songs?
Cats.
Oh, boy.
Absolutely.
I don't know a dog song. I'm sorry. But,
That's okay.
but now that's
Yeah.
something I'm gonna have to learn. Yes?
I noticed that you had met Sarah Vaughan, and she's one of my great heroines, such a beautiful voice. And a lot of the great ladies of jazz have a reputation for very hard living,
For being what?
very hard living. What was her lifestyle like? How did, because she, I don't
Well-
know much about her personal story.
It was back in '57. I was in Miami, on Miami Beach, and I was dating a girl who was working, showgirl, who was working the Carillon Hotel. And there was a fellow in there called Sir Lionel Beckles, and he used to paint his body in gold and dance out on stage through live steam. And in his bare feet, he would dance point. He was phenomenal. So through all of that, why, I was introduced to him. And it just turned out that he was very close with Sarah Vaughan. So when I went up to New York, you know, he gave me his address up there and everything, and so I contacted him. And he lived down in Brooklyn in one of those 4-story stone things, whatever you call it. His dad was from Aruba, I think it was, one of the islands in the Philippines, or the Caribbean. And he took me to Sarah Vaughan's house. So I got to meet her, and we met many times after that, and then I would go up to Harlem and meet them in a club. Sometimes it was just her and her husband and me. And by the way, Sir Lionel Beckles was gay, and he made costumes and things, and he made some for Saks. But, so I was sitting there at the bar, and I don't know how it came up, but she said to me, she said, well, something. I said, well, not me. She said, well, aren't you gay? I said, no. She said, you're with Lionel all the time. I said, I know, but I'm not. I said, I'm just sure of myself, so I don't feel bad about being with a gay person. You know, so. And so I used to go to clubs where she'd work. She'd see me and she'd go like this. And I'd meet her backstage afterwards, and we would go down to Birdland. I met a lot of people through her in Birdland. It was wonderful. And then sometimes we get down to the Village, and go in some of the different clubs there, and people were always rushing up to her and everything, you know. They never rushed up to me.
What is Birdland?
What's that?
What is Birdland?
Birdland is a club, more of a jazz club. And there's a song, Lullaby of Birdland. da 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 da. And so, and we went down steps, and there was he a dwarf or a midget? I think he was a midget. Do you know the difference between dwarfs and midgets? Well, there's a big difference. A midget is like you or I, except small. A dwarf has a bigger body and short legs. They both about that high. I've worked with a couple of midgets, and I knew a couple of dwarfs. I got some stories about those I could tell. But where was I?
Birdland.
Birdland.
Sarah Vaughan.
Sarah Vaughan, yeah.
What was her lifestyle like, Dad?
What?
Did she party hard?
Okay.
What was she like?
She was wonderful. I mean, I knew her all that time in New York. They moved to Hollywood. I bumped into her in Hollywood. One time Louis Armstrong was having a birthday party, his 70th birthday party, and I just came down to Hollywood. I had friends who lived there, songwriter, and I'm name dropping, but that's what I'm here about. And I went down to the place where the performance was, where his birthday party, and I stood backstage, or by the backstage door, and sure enough, Sass came walking along, and I said, "Hi." She says, "You show up at the damnedest places." So of course she took me in. I had my camera. I have a nice shot of him standing by a big birthday cake. He's on stage. But it was really nice, and I got to meet a lot of those old jazz musicians. And Louis Bellson was the drummer. You know, he was married to Pearl Bailey. So, did I answer your question? What was the question?
Well, you know, I was just wondering if she partied really hard, if she was drinking a lot of alcohol, taking a lot of drugs, because it seems like her quality of voice was just always so solid, and it always blows me away that they can party so hard and keep their voice. And
No, she didn't.
yeah.
I mean, we partied. She and I would go. Once her husband was looking for us, and we come out of Birdland, and Lionel Beckles came along and said, "Sam, you guys better get going." CB, this was one, she's had, I don't know how many husbands, but this one was CB Atkins. He's got a gun, he's looking for you guys. So we said, "Go south, Cab, go south." But I've had a lot of experience. A good experience with her was one time we drove her to, Lionel and I, drove her to Philadelphia to the big Spectrum Stadium they had there. And she performed. And there were all kind of stars there. And the show went on and on, just like my talking goes on and on. And pretty soon, she was getting a little fed up. And we were just sort of wondering, you know. And now there's this guy, and I can't think of his name, but he played either sax or what do you call it, a clarinet. And she said, "Let's pack up and go." So we started packing up her stuff to go. And then they came in and said, 5 minutes. And when she left, she says, I won't be long. Well, she was on stage for an hour. And driving home, she said, "You know, I was just going to do a few songs and get the hell off and let everybody go home, whoever was left." She said the place was full, and they all stood when I came in. She said, "I just couldn't do anything but perform for them." So does that tell you about her?
Mm-hmm.
I've been to her house to parties. One of the things I've done in my life was, I was a photographer, and I met some people who started a beauty salon, and they said, "Why don't you learn how to do hair? You could work in our salon, but you could also do the models. You're shooting a lot of models and things." Photography was. So I did. So the, what is it? Double ARP, or whatever it is, there was a bigwig there at the party, and they asked me how, because I'd done Sarah's hair a few times. You know, how do you find working with her hair opposed to like working with the white girl? I said, it's no different, just a little curly and a little tougher. You know, but so, oh yeah, I last saw her when she sang at the Wiltern Theater in Los Angeles, and with Count Basie and Joe Williams. He was there, and I didn't tell her I was coming or anything. I'd lost contact with her for some time because I'd been living in San Diego. So I went backstage, and it was real nice to see her. And she knew about my acting stuff, and she wanted me to get together with her to help her daughter. Her daughter was adopted, and I first met her daughter when she was in a crib in San Francisco when Sarah came and sang at the Fairmont Hotel. But I went out of town again. When I got back, I didn't contact her right away, and then she died. And so I called her agent to find out where the service on the. He wouldn't tell me. Isn't that sad? Now why am I telling? I want to keep you laughing. Now, I do a little tapping, and I do a little drumming. So, he's got a number 3 on his foot. On the bottom.
Stop judging other people's appearances.
What'd you say?
Stop judging other people's appearances.
Yeah.
No judgment.
Yeah.
Stop judging other
Just an
people's
observation.
appearances.
I don't think he was judging.
Oh,
Jesse.
wow.
He was just making
Did you hear what she
observations.
said? That took me a while. She said, stop judging other people's appearances. Was I didn't know I was judging you.
I didn't feel that way.
I just
thought it was an
noticed.
observation.
Not everybody has a 3 on their foot. Oh, so, like I said, they had carpet here, so Frank found this piece of plywood. I learned to play the conga from Cuba. This was a Cuban a beat. And I've been watching drummers for a long time, and it wasn't until just recently here in Ashland that I went to a jazz session that they had, and there was a girl there playing conga. And she played that style. So I went back, or when she was leaving, I chased her out the hall. And I said, did you learn from a Cuban? She said, yeah. How did you know? I said, I could tell by the style. It's just something about way that they play. Now, this is djembe. This doesn't even go with this. I just brought it because it was colorful. I brought the stool because I was going to sit on it, but then I set this on it. So, is that my daughter with her hand up?
Yes. Can I ask a question?
Did you want to tell me it's time to
It's,
quit?
oh, no, it will, it's like 10 minutes till you said you wanted to quit.
What's that?
It's 10 minutes till you said you wanted to quit,
Oh,
but I wanted to ask a question about a drummer, Mickey Hart.
Oh, yeah.
oh, y'all know Mickey Hart, who he is? Mickey Hart there were 2 drummers in the band.
What band?
Huh?
What band?
The band that Mickey Hart played in.
Touche.
drummer was Billy Kreutzmann.
Uh-huh.
And then there was Phil Lish, and I even knew Pigpen. As a matter of fact,
What band?
when they flew up
Grateful
to
Dead.
Oh, that's what I thought.
Woodstock, when they flew up, we were gonna go up with them. I'm talking about the Grateful Dead for y'all that don't, you know. who
I'm not a
talking about.
deadhead.
Uh,
I could have been.
I met them in New York City, and so we were hanging out, and they were on their way to Woodstock, and we were all gonna drive up together. Well, the traffic got so bad that we weren't able to go, and they took them up in a helicopter. But I had introduced Pigpen to this lady. Her name was Black Barbara. And she was tall, and if you ever watch the movie, you can see Black Barbara getting out of the helicopter with him, Pigpen. And of course, Pigpen passed away then. And Jared Garcia was a nice guy. What was it called? Oh, Mickey Hart. You want to know about Mickey Hart?
Yeah, I didn't have a specific question, just curious of like one story.
What's that?
A story about Mickey Hart.
Well, I have a story on my website about him that I wrote. We were friends for a long time. When I moved back to California, I moved back up into Sonoma, and they lived in Vallejo, and he had a recording, he lived on a ranch, he had a recording studio, and he had horses. I liked both. I used to go visit him a lot. And then one day he called me. Oh, I was producing a show in Little Tokyo. I was managing a Japanese singer. And so I put together the show with the Taiko Dojo drummers and all these different people. And it was in Little Tokyo. So I was coming out of the office of the theater there, and I heard these drummers, and there were Taiko Dojo drummers in there, but they were from Japan. They weren't the local San Francisco Taiko Dojo, the ones I booked. And I saw Mickey sitting there with his recording stuff. He was recording it. So I went in, said hi. We went out to lunch, and we talked about it. I told him what I was doing, so he knew I was connected with the Taiko Dojo drummers in San Francisco. And so I got a call from him. He wanted to make a big drum, and he wanted to know how to do it. And I said, well, I can tell you how, because I've been to their rehearsals, and I asked them how. I said, but I'd be happy to take you there. He said, I'd like to go meet him. So I took him, and he met them, and then I got a call from him. He said, what he wanted the drum for was to play in a movie
Oh.
with Marlon Brando. It was a war movie, that one where he, does anybody remember what that is?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Apocalypse Now?
Yeah.
Apocalypse Now?
Yeah.
Apocalypse Now, yeah. So he was gonna play for that. And so I took him, he met them, he called me then, and he wanted to invite them. He invited them out to his ranch. He had all kind of stuff for him. And then he called me and said on Friday and said, could you get them to come out to, I forget his name too. He had a ranch. He's the one that produced Apocalypse Now. Anybody? What?
The director?
Who?
Coppola?
Yeah, Francis Ford Coppola.
Yeah.
So he said, could you get him to come out there? And I said, well, I'll see. I mean, I can't promise anything. So I went in on Saturday and saw them, and I called him back, and I said, yeah, they'll come out. And I said, I want to bring my girl, Japanese girl I'm managing too, and she can play somewhere. So he did. He let her play in the house, and we sat out in the field. And it's very funny. I read a story by his son, or he was at that party. Of course, I didn't know it. I never even knew. He couldn't have been too big, but he talked about the guy jumping out of the airplane in a parachute and coming up and giving a gift to Coppola. But anyway, the guys showed up, they played, and Francis Ford Coppola liked them. So now Mickey's going to use them in the film. Then he called me and he said, Sam, he said, they want $5,000. He said, I'm paying everybody scale. And so I said, well, what do you want me to do? He said, well, can you talk to them? So I finally said, would you do it? Would you pay them $2,000 for it and tell me how many times you need them? Because they need to know all that stuff. You know, the Grateful Dead just did things off the top of their head. They didn't, you know, there wasn't no schedules. So he said 3 times, 4 hours each time. And I said, would you pay them $2,000 for that? He said, yeah. Now this was whenever that film was, I don't even remember that. So I told him, I said, oh, so then I called Sonichi Tanaka, the head of it, and made the deal. I didn't get there, oh, and he asked me to take care of the contract. So I didn't get there right away. I had other things I was doing. So when I got there, they were already in there working. So I went to in the office to look at the contract, and I said, oh, I can't take this. You've got it in here that they have 3 sessions, and you're paying them so much per session. I said, they're doing a job, and if they can do it in 2 sessions, they're saving you money by not doing the 3rd session, and they deserve the $2,000. And so she said, well, I can't make that decision. Mickey has to make it. So I went out to see Mickey, and they just stopped, and Mickey was walking this way, and I said, Mickey, I said, I just talked with Brenda, and there's a thing in the contract that needs to be corrected. And he said, well, he said, you do what you want. I said, well, I'm going to be fair. He said, I don't care. So I went back, and I told Brenda, and I said, Mickey said to do what I want. I said, I got to have the $2,000. So she gave me a check for it right then. You know, Japanese, it's like you have to respect them. And, you know, they say face or whatever, all of that stuff. So I got them the $2,000. They got their money, and I said goodbye to them. They did my show, you know, of course, and I paid them for that. And the next time I was in a dead office, one of the girls came up and said, Sam, please, Mickey's on his way down. Would you mind scrambling? Because Mickey sees you, he's going to blow up, and then it's going to be miserable for the rest of us all day long. So I left. Finally, I wrote him a letter, and I said, Mickey, we are both Virgos, so we're both right. But I want you to know that I won't be bothering you anymore. And I left it at that. So I have, but it's all in my story. Well, folks, unless there's another question.
Did you know Sinatra?
What's that?
Did you know Sinatra?
Oh, yeah, I got a half hour of stories about him.
How about 5 minutes?
I met him through Harry Gardino. Harry Gardino was an actor, and I met Harry through Al Torrieri, and coming to the Circle Star Theater, and he used to come up to the ranch, and we all hung out. We used to go to breakfast in the morning and stuff like that. I cut his hair one time. I cut it real short on purpose because he was half drunk and being obnoxious. He got real mad at me. But so we were sitting in Nicky Blair's. It's a bar on Sunset that was all the people came in that worked. I used to go in there a whole lot with Don Joe, and I've had dinner there with Dionne Warwick and all different kind of people. And so we were sitting at the bar, at the end of the bar, and he's telling me a story about Frank Sinatra wanting him to do something, and he said, I'm not gonna do it, I don't wanna do it. The next thing, there's a tap on his shoulder, and there's Frank Sinatra. So Harry introduced me to Frank, and I moved over a seat, and Frank sat between us, and we sat there for a couple of hours talking. So that was my first meeting with Frank. Then he worked at the Circle Star, and somebody that I knew wanted to meet Frank, so I took him down to the Circle Star, and lo and behold, in the band was this, I'll make this short, was this beautiful blonde cello player who I used to date. Hadn't seen her in a long time, and I can tell you all that. But so I rushed backstage afterwards to say hello to her, you know, and then I got the other guy up to see Frank and introduced him and everything. And so we went out at intermission, and we sat there and we talked and everything. The girl and then the guys there, and I had to tell them, don't ask me any questions right now, I want to be with her. And so I wanted to meet her with her again, and then she said, well, I'm getting along real good with my husband. So I don't think, I don't want to do it. I said, okay. So I walked her back, and the theater was a big theater in a round, 650 seats, 2,500 seats, or 6,500 something. Anyway, big theater. And I walked her through the curtain and backstage, and then I came back out through the curtains, in through the theater and back, and as I was doing it, I heard her call, Sam! And I turned around, and she came rushing up to me, threw her arms around me, and she says, I want to see you again. And just then, Frank Sinatra stuck his head out. I think he was following her. And saw us embracing. So that's my story.
Was he her husband?
Huh?
Was he her husband?
No, of course not.
Oh.
No, Frank
Yeah.
Sinatra wasn't.
Yeah.
No.
I was just wondering why he was following her.
Yeah.
She was beautiful.
Did you see her again?
What's that?
Did you see her again?
The cello player.
Yeah?
You want to expound on that?
What's that?
You want to expound on that?
Well, she was working at the Golden Gate Hotel, theater. They were doing a show there, and she was playing. She's a cellist. She was very good. Don Rickles even mentioned her one time, on stage, and she was down there and he talked about her, and everybody applauded her. So she said to meet her there. So having gone and worked with so many theaters and everything, I just walked in like I owned the place and walked right on through and went in and sat in the green room waiting for them. And she came out, and she was amazed that I got in and all that. And we went out. And then it was like, well, I'm trying to think whether I should really be saying some of this, but it was like, I felt like a little kid. And I told her, I said, if you had said to me, Sam, let's run away, I think I'd do it. And she said, if you said it, I think I would. And we both said, well, but we can't. And we shook hands, and I said goodbye. We never saw each other again. And as far as I know, she's still playing the cello. So, folks, I could end it with a song, if you don't want to suffer. Oh, you want to hear another song? Yeah. Sure, glad you. I'll give you a choice. Old Man River or Some Enchanted Evening. Neither one?
Old Man River.
Old Man River.
Can you go between?
I'm going to let this young lady here tell me.
Old Man River.
Old Man River. There's an old man. That's all I forgot the lyrics.
Some enchanted evening.
That's all.
Some enchanted evening.
They're all in the Mississippi.
Well, there's an old man. There's an old man called the Mississippi. That's the old man that I long to be. What does he care if the land's got troubles? What does he care if the land ain't free? Old man river, that old man river, he must know something, but don't say nothing. He just keeps rolling. He keeps on rolling along. He don't plant taters, he don't plant cotton, and them that plants them are soon forgotten. That old man river, he just keeps rolling along. Oh, you and me, we sweat and strain, bodies all aching and racked with pain. Tote that bar, lift that bale, you get a little drunk and you land in jail. I get weary and sick of trying. I'm tired of living and scared of dying. That old man river, he just keeps rolling along.
You're not gonna sing Enchanted Evening? Sing Enchanted Evening?
Wasn't that something Judge did? Well, I've got to get a little dry.
Ladies and gentlemen, my father.
What'd you say?
Nothing.
Oh, someone chatted. Some enchanted evening, you may see a stranger. You may see a stranger across a crowded room, and somehow you'll know even then, that you will see her again and again. Some enchanted evening, someone may be laughing. You may hear her laughing across a crowded room. And night after night, as strange as it seems, the sound of her laughter will fill all your dreams. Who can explain it? Who can tell you why? Fools give you reasons, wise men never try. Some enchanted evening, when you hear her calling, when you hear her calling across a crowded room, then rush to her side and make her your own. Or all through your life you may dream all alone. Once you have found her, never let her go. Once you have found her, never let her go. Did I put anybody to sleep?
No.
I usually do.